The restaurant was always filled with noise, clinking dishes, rushing footsteps, customers talking over each other, but the young waitress moved through all of it with a quiet focus. She didn't complain, even when she had to carry heavy trays or deal with customers who barely looked at her. Most people saw her as just another worker trying to make ends meet. No one knew that every night, after going home tired and drained, she sat beside an old piano and practiced until her fingers hurt. She had been saving up for music lessons for years, but her family struggled financially, so she taught herself through online videos and free tutorials. She wasn't perfect, but she had a gift, one she never showed in public. At work, she was shy and soft-spoken. She preferred staying in the background, doing her job quietly, blending into the routines of the restaurant. Her co-workers liked teasing her. They weren't harmful, but their jokes always had an undercurrent of disbelief. A piano player, one of the servers said once while tying her apron. You're too quiet for the stage. Yeah, another laughed. I bet you only know happy birthday. She only smiled politely. What was the point of arguing? She knew she had dreams bigger than her job, but she also knew not everyone would understand. Sometimes, she would pause while wiping tables and listen to the soft music coming from the restaurant speakers, instrumental songs that always made her chest tighten. She wished she could play like that. She wished people would believe she had more in her than just taking orders and clearing spills. One Friday evening, the restaurant hosted a small birthday event for a local regular. A piano stood at the corner of the dining hall, dusty and ignored. It was mostly there for decoration. The manager always said it was too out of tune to bother with. But that night, one of the guests joked loudly, asking if any staff could play something. His friends laughed and pointed toward the waitress, who had just walked past with a tray. She looks like she plays piano. One of them joked, come on, show us something. Their laughter echoed across the room. Even some of her co-workers chuckled under their breath. They expected her to blush, shake her head, and hurry away. She felt her face warm with embarrassment, but she didn't say anything. She continued placing plates on a nearby table, pretending she didn't hear the laughter. Deep inside, though, she felt a small sting. Moments like these always reminded her how invisible her real abilities were. Her dream of becoming a pianist felt so far away, like a story she wasn't allowed to tell. As she returned to the kitchen, the teasing didn't stop. Two cooks nudged each other and laughed. Hey, one said, you should try the piano. At least it'll entertain the guests. Maybe we'll finally hear that dream of hers, the other added. She forced a smile, but the comment stuck with her. She knew they didn't mean harm, but the way they laughed, like her dream was a joke, made her heart tighten. Later that night, the restaurant slowed down. Many customers had left, and only a few tables remained occupied. The birthday group still lingered, talking loudly and enjoying themselves. The waitress continued her tasks, filling water glasses, clearing plates, and avoiding eye contact with anyone who might bring up the piano again. But fate has strange timing. The speaker system malfunctioned suddenly, creating an awkward silence. The birthday guest joked again, asking for live music instead of the broken speakers. His friends roared with laughter. The manager rolled his eyes. If anyone here can actually play that old piano, he said jokingly, I'll give them the night off tomorrow. The waitress heard the words clearly. She knew he didn't expect anyone to step forward, but something inside her shifted. Maybe it was the exhaustion of being underestimated. Maybe it was the years of practicing alone. Maybe it was simply the need to prove to herself, if not anyone else, that she was more than the quiet girl in an apron. She took a slow breath. Her hands trembled slightly as she wiped them on a napkin. She imagined the piano at home, the one she practiced on every night. She thought about how much she wanted to share her music with someone, anyone, just once. So she walked toward the corner where the dusty piano stood. The guests noticed her first. Their laughing faces shifted to confused expressions. Wait, are you actually going to try? One of them asked, then laughed again. Careful. Another joked, don't break it. Her co-workers peeked from the kitchen doorway, whispering and snickering. The manager looked surprised. You don't have to, he said, his tone halfway between concern and disbelief. But she only nodded politely. She pulled out the wooden bench. It creaked under her weight. The keys were dusty, some slightly yellowed. She pressed one gently. The sound wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. Good enough for her to speak through it. The room wasn't entirely silent. There were still murmurs, chuckles, whispers, but she blocked them out. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting her breath settle. Then she began to play. The first notes were soft, unsure, like a shy introduction. But as her fingers warmed, the melody flowed smoother. It was a song she had practiced countless nights, a piece that carried warmth, pain, hope, and all the emotion she had never said out loud. Within seconds, the laughter stopped. People turned their heads. The guests at the birthday table exchanged stunned looks. Their jokes died mid-sentence. Some leaned forward, trying to get a better view. Even the cooks who had teased her stepped closer to the doorway, their faces shifting from amusement to disbelief. Her co-workers froze, watching her hands glide across the keys with a skill none of them imagined she had. The music grew fuller, richer. She played with emotion, letting her heart guide the tempo. Every rise and fall of the melody echoed through the quiet restaurant. It didn't sound like a waitress playing for fun. It sounded like someone who lived through the music, someone who had poured her soul into every note for years. Customers who were about to leave stayed near the door, listening silently. A couple seated near the window held hands and leaned toward the piano, mesmerized. The manager stood with his arms slowly falling to his sides, unable to believe the talent he had overlooked for so long. The waitress didn't open her eyes. She didn't need to. She played as if she were alone in her small living room, practicing late at night. She played the way she always dreamed of playing, without fear, without hesitation. When she hit the final soft chord, the room remained silent for a moment, too stunned to react. Then someone clapped. Then another. Soon the entire restaurant filled with applause. She blinked, surprised by the sound. Her face warmed, not from embarrassment but from something gentler, perhaps relief. For the first time, people weren't laughing at her. They were seeing her, truly seeing her. One of the guests from the birthday party stood up and approached her. "I had no idea," he said, genuinely impressed. "That was beautiful." Others echoed the same sentiment. Compliments poured in from every corner of the room. Her co-workers were speechless. The cooks exchanged awkward glances, suddenly aware of how careless their earlier jokes had been. The manager simply stared at her with wide eyes, struggling to form words, and the young waitress, still sitting on the wooden bench, finally allowed herself a small, real smile. For years she'd hidden her talent, thinking the world wouldn't care. But tonight, it was different. Tonight, her dream wasn't something to laugh at. Tonight, everyone knew she was more than just a waitress. After the soft echo of the final note faded, the young waitress sat still for a moment. Her fingers hovered over the keys, slightly trembling, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what had just happened. She had never imagined playing in front of a crowd, especially not here, in the place where she spent her days cleaning spills and refilling drinks. Yet now, the entire restaurant was looking at her in a completely different way. People continued clapping, some even cheering. She lifted her hands from the keys slowly, unsure how to react. All she could manage was a shy smile. Her cheeks felt warm, but this time she didn't want to hide. She finally felt seen in a way she had never felt before. A couple approached her first. The woman placed a hand on her chest as if the music had touched something deep inside. "I can't believe you work here," she said softly. "You should be on a stage." Her partner nodded. "That was one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a long time." The waitress thanked them politely, her voice barely above a whisper. Compliments were something she wasn't used to receiving. She had heard more jokes about her dream than encouragement, so hearing genuine admiration felt both overwhelming and comforting. Her co-workers quietly walked toward her next. The same ones who teased her earlier now stood with awkward expressions. One of them rubbed the back of his neck. Didn't know you could play like that," he said. Another added, "We were just joking, you know, but really, wow, you were amazing." She nodded, accepting their words without holding any bitterness. She understood they were surprised. She had never talked about her talent in detail. It had always felt safer to keep her dream quiet. The manager approached last. He was usually calm and strict, but tonight he looked shaken, as if he had witnessed something unbelievable. "Why didn't you tell me you could play like that?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She gave a small shrug. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." He paused. For once, he didn't have a quick reply. His eyes softened with something unusual for him. "Respect." "Well," he said after a moment, "you've proved us all wrong, and that offer still stands. Take tomorrow off. You earned it." She smiled gratefully. She didn't expect the day off to matter much, but hearing his tone, he wasn't giving it out of pity or obligation. It was genuine appreciation. After the crowd returned to their tables, many diners continued stealing glances at her. Some asked her about the song she played. Others wanted to know how long she had been practicing. She answered quietly but honestly. She told them about learning through online videos, practicing after long shifts, and dreaming of one day playing in front of people who would listen with an open heart. One of the birthday guests even recorded her performance on his phone. He asked if it was okay to post it online. She hesitated at first, unsure if she wanted strangers watching her. But when he assured her that the video could help her reach people who appreciate music, she nodded. She didn't expect anything big, but she liked the idea that her passion could inspire someone, even one person. Before leaving, the birthday group gave her a small envelope with tips as a thank you for playing. She tried to refuse, saying she only played because she wanted to, but they insisted. She accepted it with gratitude, feeling a mix of surprise and disbelief. Nobody had ever given her something for her music before. Once the restaurant closed and everyone began cleaning up, the air felt different. Her co-workers spoke to her with unexpected kindness, asking questions they had never bothered with before. Do you want to be a musician someday? What made you start learning? Can you play more songs? She answered them while stacking plates and wiping tables. Though it felt strange at first, she enjoyed talking about something she loved. For years she had carried her dream alone. Tonight, sharing even a small part of it with others felt freeing. When she finished her shift and stepped outside, the night air felt cooler, lighter. She walked home with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. As she entered the small apartment, she sat down at her old piano as usual. The keys were worn out, some slightly chipped, but it didn't matter. She played a soft tune, letting her emotions flow. It wasn't the same as the restaurant's piano, but this one had held her secrets, her struggles, her hopes. She closed her eyes, remembering the applause. For the first time, she felt like her music belonged in the world, not just in her room. But the next morning, since she had the day off, she woke up early and checked her phone. She was shocked. The video of her playing at the restaurant had already gained thousands of views overnight. Comments were filled with praise. Who is she? This is beautiful. She has amazing talent. She needs to be discovered. Her hands covered her mouth as she read the comments. She didn't know the people writing them, but their words touched her deeply. She spent the morning reading each message slowly, letting the support sink in. Later that day, she returned to the restaurant not to work, but because the manager had called her saying someone wanted to meet her. Curious and slightly nervous, she walked inside. The place was busy as always, but the staff, even the cooks, greeted her warmly. A woman stood near the piano, waiting patiently. She appeared to be in her late 40s, well-dressed but humble. When the waitress approached, the woman smiled. I hope you don't mind, she said, but I watched the video of you playing last night, and I knew I had to speak with you. The waitress blinked, unsure what she meant. The woman continued, I work with a small music foundation. We help young musicians who can't afford formal training, and after seeing your performance, well, I think you have something rare, something honest. I'd like to offer you a scholarship for piano lessons. The waitress felt her heart skip. She stared at the woman, unsure if she had heard correctly. You mean, real lessons? With a teacher? She asked softly. Yes, the woman said. Real lessons, a proper program, you wouldn't have to pay anything. For a moment, the waitress couldn't speak. Her eyes filled with tears, not the painful kind, but the kind that come when a dream suddenly moves closer than you ever expected. Why me? She finally whispered. The woman smiled gently. Because talent like yours deserves to grow, and because kindness, humility, and passion are worth supporting. The manager, who had been listening quietly from the side, nodded in agreement. You should take this chance, he said honestly. You deserve it. The waitress wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. She had never imagined something like this happening to her. She wasn't used to being chosen, supported, or believed in. For years she had worked quietly, carrying her dream like a fragile secret. But now, the world was opening a door she never knew existed. She accepted the offer with shaking hands and a grateful heart. Over the next few weeks, her life changed in ways she never expected. She attended lessons twice a week, learning techniques and skills she had never understood before. Her teacher was patient and encouraging. Amazed by how much she had already taught herself. At work, people no longer saw her as just a waitress. Some customers came specifically hoping to hear her play during break hours. Her co-workers treated her with newfound respect, sometimes even asking her for music rec. They didn't tease her anymore. Instead, they proudly told people, she's our star. Her confidence grew slowly, like a flower opening one petal at a time. She still did her job with the same dedication, but now she carried a quiet glow of purpose. Months later, the Music Foundation held a small public event. Students were invited to perform on stage in front of families, teachers, and visitors. When it was her turn, she walked on stage with trembling hands but steady determination. She sat at the polished grand piano, took a deep breath, and let the music begin. Her performance was heartfelt, emotional, real, just like the night she first played at the restaurant. When she finished, the audience gave her a standing ovation. She saw the manager clapping proudly in the crowd. She saw her co-workers cheering. She saw the woman from the foundation smiling warmly. And for the first time, she believed she truly belonged on a stage. Her journey wasn't over. She still had a long way to go, more training, more practice, more challenges. But she was no longer invisible. People believed in her now, and more importantly, she believed in herself. A simple moment, a simple decision to sit at a dusty piano had changed everything. What started as laughter and teasing had turned into a moment that opened doors she never thought she'd walk through. And as she stepped off the stage, she knew one thing for certain: a dream may stay quiet for years, but it never disappears. It waits for the right moment, the right courage, the right note to be heard. And on that unforgettable night at the restaurant, she finally let the world listen.